All right, let's try this again. We're going to talk about Unit 1, Ideas, Opportunities, and Entrepreneurship. And we're going to get into, what this class is really about. Who is an entrepreneur? What kind of, how do they come up with these ideas and run these businesses? What characteristics and things like that do they have? And how can I, push into this if I'm interested in it? Or what can I take away from this to use in another career that might not be entrepreneurship? So we'll talk about that a little bit. So that Unit 1, this is Part 1, and then there'll be a Part 2 as well. What is an entrepreneur? It's someone who creates a business in the face of risk. Most of the time people associate risk with entrepreneurship. So a lot of times they think of them more like high rollers, heavy risk takers, people that are really going to be, out there doing crazy stuff, but that is not necessarily the case. They usually are people that mitigate risk, that see risk, but find ways to bring that to a level that is acceptable and worth the risk versus the reward. They take this uncertainty, this risk, they are looking to achieve profit, growth, they're taking an opportunity, they're getting the things together that are required to capitalize on it, they're executing this plan. And so an entrepreneur has a lot more to it than just big risk takers. Let's see, give ourselves a little spot here. Characteristics of an entrepreneur: desire for responsibility. You really need to be the one that wants to be responsible for everything, that wants to, get the good or bad feedback or, rewards or issues. Moderate levels of risk, again, they're not crazy, jump off a building without a parachute type people. They're people that see yes where other people see no, and they're able to do that because they can figure out solutions and ways to mitigate that bigger risk. Willingness to break the rules, they see things differently, right? Self-reliance, they're confident, they're determined, they feel like they can be the ones to solve the problem. And when we go through this semester, you'll see some of the podcasts I have you listen to or the videos, things like that. I think that's a critical part of being a successful entrepreneur is being determined, having confidence, being able to rely on yourself. You like that immediate feedback. You want to hear, is this good or bad? When I was listening to the startup podcast, one of the things at the end of a pitch meeting is that they would say, gauge me, how are you leaning? Yes or no on funding. And I thought, oh my gosh, I would be too scared to ask that question, but they would ask it and they would get feedback, and that would give them a place to go or to start from, or something to know about how they did. And so entrepreneurs are really open to that and just feed on it. So high level of energy, there's going to be so many things that you have to get done. You're going to be the janitor and the CEO. You're going to sell, you're going to build, you're going to clean the toilets. All of that's going to be part of your role as an entrepreneur, at least at some point. And so high levels of energy important. Competitive, I think you want to win a little bit, you want to accomplish something, and so competitiveness can be useful as well. How do you get into entrepreneurship? I don't know why it's on this page, but we're going to talk about it here so we don't miss it. I'm going to skip to necessity entrepreneurs. Sometimes you might get into entrepreneurship and not really ever want to get into entrepreneurship, right? So my husband is in the social services field, and that just is a field that is lending itself to independent contractors and small business owners. And so he now owns his own practice in the social service field, and he never would have chosen to be an entrepreneur, but that is just how things have gone for him. So you might find yourself in a situation in a career field where entrepreneurship is really your next logical step, right? I want to work for myself. Social services, consulting, obviously. I think graphic design and anything in the tech field, you could definitely find yourself in the necessity to be an entrepreneur. I would say even just healthcare anymore. A lot of times you're looking at, working for yourself and contracting places. And so necessity entrepreneurship, a lot of people in the pandemic found themselves in situations where, hey, I can't go to a regular job, I got laid off from my job, I got to find a way to make money. And so now I'm, starting my own business. So you might find industry or a place in your life where that just makes sense. Opportunity entrepreneurs are what we generally talk about, right? You find a need and you want to fill it. You find a problem that you can fix, and you go out there and start a business. It's more based on, you think you have a great idea and you want to bring it forward into a business. Generally what you think about, but again, necessity entrepreneurs definitely a reason you might end up being an entrepreneur. Serial entrepreneurs are the ones most of the time I feel like we read about, right? They start a business, it gets big, they make lots of money, they start another business, it gets big. We probably don't read about the ones that maybe our mom tells us about the ones. The guy down the street that's always trying the next idea and has never really made one work. So serial entrepreneurs, maybe you'll find yourself, I love this, I love the startup, I love the idea creation and moving it forward. So those are kind of reasons why you might find yourself getting into entrepreneurship. I should make it its own slide next time. Characteristics of entrepreneur continued. Organizing, again, you don't have to have every single one of these skills. If you're like, hey, I'm not really organized, if you looked at my office right now, you would be concerned about that for me as well. Value of achievement over money. There will be a time frame. For some people, it's shorter or longer, where it's just not worth it, right? You have to be in it for the achievement because the money isn't there. It's ridiculous. You should just go get a job at Quick Trip or whatever. You're putting in way more than you're getting out, especially financial, but maybe, a lot of places you could, just in satisfaction or, all kinds of stuff. So value achievement over money. You have to love what you're doing. High degree of commitment. Again, getting yourself to that place that you're reaching for is going to take commitment, because there will be times when it feels like it's not worth it. Again, I've been listening to some podcasts, trying to find some things for us to listen to and read and things like that, and you'll definitely get a feel for that commitment and the need for value achievement. Tolerance of ambiguity. I think this, along especially financial ambiguity, but just, not really knowing if it's going to work out, not knowing what you're going to do next, not knowing. We honestly opened our business almost 13 years ago. I'm not really sure if we're going to have any employees, and some days I'm still in that place, right? So just going forward, knowing, hey, these are the things we're going to do, it's going to work out, and you might not know that for sure. Creativity, flexibility, resourcefulness. I think this will come back, when you listen to the Love Sack video, you're going to see where he finds creative solutions, where he is flexible and resourceful in finding ways to get things done, whether it's going to the high school implement or the implement store, whether it's backing up his tractor with a bunch of dirt that he got pushed up from the city, finding ways to get things done, not saying no. Gosh, what was I have a 13-year-old son, and I was trying to explain that to him, like, no isn't an option. Now find a way to get it done, right? We get kind of trained on there's one right answer, there's one correct outcome, but the creativity, the flexibility, the resourcefulness, the willingness to work hard, especially for a 13-year-old, tenacity, finding what will work, takes those characteristics, and so you oftentimes find those in an entrepreneur. I do realize I could make these big, but whatever. Most important quality is vision. I think, if you're going to lead a company and be a great leader, vision is really important. You want to you want to know where you're going, because a lot of times it's going to feel like you're stuck in the minutia. And so vision, work ethic, resilience, positivity, you'll hear about that in some of the podcasts, but, you'll have to be positive, because you'll hear a lot of no's. You'll find a lot of your supporters aren't supporters after a certain amount of time or at a certain point. I tell you, people love that. Oh my gosh, you're going to start your own business. It's so amazing. And then I quit my job and started my own business. And they're like, that's stupid. What are you doing? Well, we've talked about this forever. I thought you were like in my corner, and not, so, I mean, no big fallout or anything. It was just surprising that people tend to not be the supporters you think they will be, or you're grinding for a year and you're still grinding. That can, that can be hard to stay positive about. And so, figuring that out, keeping your passion alive. You hear passion and risk all associated with entrepreneurship a lot of times. And diversity, anyone, age, race, gender, color, nationality, any other characteristic can be an entrepreneur, right? There's none of that should hold you back. Should everyone be an entrepreneur? No, just like everyone shouldn't be a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or, a garbage man. Like there are people that are better suited for different things depending on their wants and needs and, likes. But none of this should hold you back from being an entrepreneur. There's lots of resources and ways to get there if that's where you're headed. Why benefits? What's so great about being an entrepreneur? Like, it sounds like maybe I should just get a job out of college and not start a business, or I'm not really into this. So there are great things about being an entrepreneur. Excuse me. Creating your own destiny. I think that's why a lot of people step out, right? You want to be your own boss. You want to decide what you do and how you do it, and you really want to be in charge of how things are going to work out for you. That's definitely top of the list in terms of why people step out. Make a difference, reach your full potential. I mean, you might get involved in this is sometime where I talk about, entrepreneurship isn't always just starting your own business. It could be, all kinds of project management, whether I'm gonna work on a big project for, my church, my kids' school, some other organization that I'm involved in. You might find yourself doing entrepreneurial things when you're trying to make a difference for a charitable organization or school or something that you believe in. So making a difference definitely can get people into that entrepreneurial arena, even if that's not their full-time job. Reach your full potential. I think that was something that kind of got me interested, and maybe was up on my list or higher up on my list than some of these other ones. I wanted to be involved in the whole gamut of business, not just, I spent the first 10 years of my career in finance, and that was a piece, and I love numbers, and there was nothing wrong with that. But, I wanted to kind of branch into marketing and salesmanship and strategy and things like that, managing people. What was I thinking? But, I wanted to do more functions of the business, and so entrepreneurship is great for that. If you're not really sure how to narrow down what you want to do in business, entrepreneurship might be for you. I mean, it's really cool how you can perform lots of different functions of business yourself and really, shine in those areas. Reap impressive profits, hopefully, for all this you're putting on the line and doing. There'll be a financial reward. I mean, will it be, I'm gonna go public or sell to, Google or whatever? Maybe not, but it doesn't mean that you can't build a lifestyle business that pays you well, that gives you the life that you want, and that you're, running the show. Contribute to society, be recognized for your efforts. Again, maybe you're getting into something that's more altruistic, or, there's an example in one of the podcasts I listen to where, she's getting into AI or artificial intelligence, and, she really believes in its effect on society and how important that is. Sorry. And so that is a driving factor for the benefit. Being recognized, it's fun to be part of an entrepreneurship circle and maybe have your business recognized or yourself for doing a great job. Do it to enjoy and have fun at it. I mean, that's a great benefit of entrepreneurship. Drawbacks. Number one drawback, I think people that really holds them back from entrepreneurship is just uncertainty of income. I can't go without a paycheck, so how am I going to do this? I don't have enough in savings. I don't have, what's my situation there? So uncertainty of income can be really a situation. Honestly, I couldn't go without income, and so I paid myself through, a time when I couldn't really pay myself. And so I burned through operating income that I shouldn't have burned through. And that dug a hole. Luckily we had the cash to make that work, but it dug a hole that I wouldn't have dug if I could have figured out how to, lower my quality of life to get my business established, things like that. So, figuring out how to get past the uncertainty of income. Do I think if that is really the thing that you're worried about, that should hold you back? Not necessarily, but it's something to consider. Risk of losing your entire investment, long hours, hard work. Is there ever a good time to get into entrepreneurship? I don't know that there is. You're always going to be giving up something, whether it's your kids' baseball games or your dating life or whatever. You are going to have to put that aside, and there's not really a good balance for it. If you're not doing that, then you're probably, not going to grow fast enough, and it's going to be really difficult to get established, and it will hold you back. High levels of stress. I'm not putting my face on this video because I need to get my hair colored because I have gray hairs and my arm hurts because someone stressed me. There's definitely high levels of stress. Discouragement, again, if you don't have some of those characteristics of being naturally positive and motivated and believe in your mission and stuff, discouragement can be a real tough thing. And one of the podcasts we listen to talks a little bit about that, about burnout and just where you get to that point where, and I think it's so funny where they talk about, one day I just wake up and all of a sudden I won't just do anything for the company. I just want to burn it all down. And I just busted out laughing because I have been there exactly. And it is, it can be tough. So something to think about how you would handle that, and maybe how your personality or different characteristics would react to that. Again, age diversity is, look at these age groups. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. You can start it tomorrow. It's not too late. It's not too early. There might come a time in your life when this makes sense for you, or doesn't make sense, and you do it anyway. That's totally fine. Online retail has really opened up, I think, more opportunities for people to get into entrepreneurship that maybe, can't afford to go without their regular income. So maybe they're able to go part-time or work full-time and then do it on the side. Online sales and things like that really have benefited entrepreneurs that saw, roadblocks to getting into it that now can maybe get started when they couldn't before. Small business is big. Does that make sense? 99.7% of the businesses in the United States are small businesses. They employ almost half of the private sector workforce. They are creating most of the new jobs. They are, 5% of small companies create 67% of the new jobs in the economy. So we're employing people. We are making up most of the businesses. We, are a big piece of the economy. What are most of the businesses by industry? Service businesses obviously make up over half of the small businesses in the United States. Why is that? Usually there's lower barriers to entry. If I'm getting into manufacturing, that tiny little piece of the pie, now we're talking about buying millions of dollars worth of equipment. We're talking about needing a huge building to do this, possibly. There's just the barriers of entry there. Probably wholesale, construction, the same types of thing. Retail gives us a little more flexibility in terms of, size and quantity of how we get into it. Finance, insurance, real estate, that piece of the pie, that's been independent contractors and small businesses for a long time. And so that, I think, probably will continue to grow. But services, again, that's generally where you're seeing, I think you'll continue to see the growth in terms of small businesses and entrepreneurship in that area. Again, we're producing a significant amount of the GDP. The business sales are coming from us, and we're the ones that are innovating. When we get into how to run a small business, and when we talk about the second part of of Unit 1, we're going to talk about creativity and innovation and how that's so critical to a small business and keeping you ahead of the curve and ahead of your competition and setting you apart. And so, the more you ingrain that into your company culture, the better, because, then you're going to be able to be more agile and respond to changes that bigger companies can. So they're creating 16 times more patents per employee than larger companies. They list several things that came out of small business. And failure, failure is something that holds a lot of people back at getting into entrepreneurship. I see failure and I know it's an option, but honestly, I think in any career, whether it's being laid off or it not working out or you spending 20 years of your life doing something you hate, I feel like that's failure just as much to me as if this doesn't work out. And so, it doesn't paralyze me, the prospect of failure. It would suck and I'd probably cry. And sometimes I do think about it and get upset or stressed or whatever. But, the prospect of failure doesn't hold me back. This believing that is one thing. I put failure into perspective in that way, but not being a natural part of the creative process, I totally understand that in my mind, but in the rest of me, I still struggle with that. You will fail at things, but that just, if you are open to it, it can get you to the next best thing. And so, understanding that, moving forward from it. And the very last one here, they learn to fail intelligently, right? They don't hang on to something that isn't working. You hear the word, they pivot, they switch things up. They just stop doing things altogether. How many business stories have we heard where, they're just like, hey, this isn't working, I'm going to start over. To me, that just blows my mind. But they fail intelligently. And most failures in business, when we're looking at this next slide and getting really concerned about 5 years, half of the businesses are gone, 10 years, 2/3 of the businesses are gone, have failed. That failure, if they're failing intelligently, doesn't mean that they lose everything and, have to start all over. They don't lose their house and their car necessarily. A lot of times it's just, I'm not getting as much out as I'm giving. This is not the lifestyle I want. This is not the return I want for this level of effort. I hate doing this. A lot of times the failure is really just closing because it didn't work out, not because you couldn't pay your rent the next day. And so I don't want people to think, this failure rate means, oh my gosh, all these people and they lost everything. Not necessarily. How do I avoid this pitfall? I don't want to fail. I see what you're saying about maybe it's not going to be this big, like I lose everything, but how do I make sure it's not, right? Knowing your business in depth, really knowing what you're getting into, building a viable business model and test it. That's what we're going to run through that process, because you do not want to get open and find out something critical is wrong that is going to make it impossible to be successful, right? You don't want to open the door and realize, oh my gosh, the numbers aren't going to work. I need 3 people here every day and I can't sell a volume to support that. Or, I just rented this spot and it's way less busy than I thought and I don't know what to do, right? Use lean startup principles. Don't dig yourself into a huge hole if you don't have to. Know when to pivot. Again, you're failing in small ways. You're failing intelligently, so that if this isn't working, what do I do different? Don't be stuck in your ways. Develop a solid business plan. Understand financial statements. Guess what, on the next slide? Understand financial statements. You don't have to be a financial genius, but you do have to know what they mean and how to manage by them, right? If I'm looking at my numbers and they're down or up, like what does that mean and how do I make changes to fix that? Or how do I double down on what's making this work? Manage your financial resources same way. Is it the right time to shell out this make a big cash purchase or purchase a lot of inventory or add staff or whatever might be the case. Build the right team. That's super important. We'll learn a little bit about that in some of the podcasts we listen to. Learn to manage people effectively. If that is not your forte, learn more about it. People are going to be so critical to, especially when you're just a small team trying to get things going. There, especially if you're in that, 53% service sector, that's going to be critical to your success. So figure out how to manage people, set your business apart from the competition. What makes you different? What's your niche? What's your, how are you going to attract customers? We'll work on that, and that is critical. You have to be able to say that succinctly. What is my difference? And why is it better? Why do people need it? Why will they buy this? And back to the positive attitude. That can be really, really tricky, and figuring out how you're going to maintain that. We get through all these slides and you're like, lady, I'm not getting into this. This is not my thing. I'm not going to be an entrepreneur. I just got to take this class to get credit. That is totally fine. But don't skip over the fact that you can also learn some key skills, some really marketable things, by having an entrepreneurial mindset, right? If I'm hiring somebody and they really can appreciate what it takes to run a business, if they can look at things from an entrepreneur or small business owner mind frame sometimes and say, hey, oh my gosh, I know this is a thing, here's how I can contribute to it. You're going to be so much more employable. So critical thinking, problem solving. Don't be part of the problem. Don't bring the problem to me. Tell me what's not working and think about a solution. That is so much more beneficial as an employer. So think about that. Critical thinking, problem solving, written and oral communication, which are critical for entrepreneurs, are great for any career you're going to get into. Teamwork, collaboration, leadership, creativity, the ethics and social responsibility, just understanding those pieces of running a business, even if you choose to just work for a business, which is totally fine and what most of us will probably do. Those skills are so helpful and employable as you decide to take jobs. So use this for what you can get from it, which is just a perspective of a business owner that'll help you, be a more key piece to their staff. So things to think about also, like I mentioned earlier, you might find yourself doing some kind of project management, whether it's, being part of the PTA or at your church or at your community center, and you might use these skills in those ways as well. Any type of project management is very similar to running a business, and so how can I do that and find solutions and be creative and all those things. Conclusion, we're a big part of the economy. Diversity is what it's built on. So if you feel like some characteristic you have is holding you back, consider that. Like, am I creating an artificial barrier to getting into this? Is it something, again, use your entrepreneurial skills. Is it something that I can overcome? Is this right for me? There's so much to learn in entrepreneurship, and I hope that everybody will appreciate that in this class. This is just part 1, so I will please watch the next one that will also have sound now. Thanks for listening.